First of all, did you catch any of Dan Wootton's interview with Thomas Markle, Meghan's father?
You bet I did. I watched every single second live. It was a thrill. I could not believe what I was watching, and it feels like, despite the distance between Thomas and Meghan, he gives us little nuggets every single time. I have to tell you, Mark, though, and I don't say this very often, I'm starting to feel some serious sympathy for Meghan Markle. I don't know how I would deal if I just wanted somebody to be quiet about me and our history, and I had no control over them. But you and I both know that Mr. Markle has every right to voice his opinion and to continue talking about this. And I also understand that it's really his only way of getting through to her. But as a young woman who is, always concerned about her brand, I guess I can relate to Meghan in that sense. I feel bad that he just keeps talking.
But is it because he feels powerless and he feels he has no voice? Perhaps he's desperate, Kinsey, and perhaps you, if you were his daughter, would reach out so that this didn't have to happen.
Well, I can tell you I would. I would absolutely have reached out by now. That point I just can't justify. I feel like she could end all of this if she would just reach out to him and figure out a way to communicate. I do think it's odd, however, that he's continuously talking about legal action that never seems to come to fruition. When are these lawsuits going to show up? When are you going to try to see your grandchildren? Put your money where your mouth is. If you really want this stuff, if you really want these things, do go to court and make it happen versus, talking to media about it.
Where is American public opinion with Thomas Markle, would you say, Kinsey?
I think that most people do sympathize with Meghan in this scenario. And I'm shocked to be saying that to you, because there are so many people that just kind of want the Sussexes to go away too. But in this case, it feels like he continues to stir up the drama around them. They obviously don't want to go there and they don't want to talk about it. And I think American perception is this just the in-law that won't go away? That's perhaps, I hate to use the word, but perhaps an opportunist?
Well, this interview was one of the TV moments of the year. I'm sure you'll agree, Kinsey. My extraordinary colleague Dan Wootton on this very programme interviewed Thomas Markle. It was Thursday night. It was live. It was the Big Question guest at 10 p.m. And let's have a listen to what he said to Dan.
I was laying in a hospital talking to them from the hospital, telling them I couldn't come to the wedding. And they haven't talked to me since.
It's disgraceful.
You have a child and your parent or your child's in the hospital, wouldn't you be concerned?
Yeah.
Even if you're mad at them, wouldn't you be concerned if they're going to live or die?
Absolutely.
They don't answer or respond in any way, shape, or form. I really think Meghan and Harry got involved with the Soho Club and a bunch of those kinds of people. And she's changed. She's not the daughter I knew. My daughter was a much more giving, loving person than she is now.
Kinsey Schofield, how does this play out? What's going to happen, do you think?
Okay, Mark, can we first acknowledge Thomas Markle's adorableness, level, with the inability to turn off the notifications on his email? I just want to have a tickle fight with him. How adorable is this old man?
He's everyone's favourite grandpa, isn't he?
Amen. Absolutely. But no, I think that it would be in Meghan Markle's interest to reach out to her father and to find some sort of in between. Does he get to FaceTime with the grandchildren? Is she completely out of the
Not with that internet connection.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we there? Am I back?
I was just saying that he's not going to FaceTime with that rather dreadful computer he's using, but I do.
That's right. Yeah, no, I was wondering if he was still using America Online. But But yeah, no, I thought he was precious. I think the best way to deal with this is Meghan to find some sort of some in between. He doesn't have to talk to Harry, he doesn't have to talk to her, but I think that he would be a little happier if he felt like he had some sort of access to the grandchildren.
But Kinsey, isn't this what Meghan does? She freezes people out.
Oh, she's a ghoster. She's definitely a ghoster. And I wanted to tell you, too, I was thinking about this interview as I was watching it, and you were on for a little bit responding to it. It feels like Meghan might have got that stubborn attitude of hers. She might have inherited it from Thomas Markle. When there was the exchange where they asked, would you stop talking to media if Meghan says you can see the kids if you stop talking to media? And he's like, nope. And I thought, that's where Meghan Markle gets that little stubborn attitude right there. She inherited that right from Thomas Markle.
Well, it is a very sad situation. And I think what the world needs and what that family needs, as you said, is a reconciliation. It's important that he sees his grandchildren, that he meets them, that he bounces, little Archie on his knee. And let's hope that happens very, very soon. Kinsey, let's talk about politics stateside. US Senator Rand Paul has caused controversy with a video message released on Twitter. And it's all about any future lockdown measures in his state. Let's take a look.
It's time for us to resist. They can't arrest all of us. They can't keep all of your kids home from school. They can't keep every government building closed. Although I've got a long list of ones they might keep closed or might ought to keep closed. We don't have to accept the mandates, lockdowns, and harmful policies of the petty tyrants and bureaucrats. We can simply say no, not again. Nancy Pelosi, you will not arrest or stop me or anyone on my staff from doing our jobs. We have either had COVID, had the vaccine, or been offered the vaccine. We will make our own health choices. We will not show you a passport. We will not wear a mask. We will not be forced into random screenings and testings so you can continue your drunk with power reign over the Capitol. President Biden, we will not accept your agency's mandates or your reported moves towards a lockdown. No one should follow the CDC's anti-science mask mandates. And if you want to shut down federal agencies again, some of which aren't even back to work yet, I will stop every bill coming through the Senate with an amendment to cut their funding if they don't come back to work in person. Local bureaucrats and union bosses, we will not allow you to do more harm to our children again this year. Children are not at any more risk from COVID than they are from the seasonal flu. Every adult who works in schools has either had the vaccine or had their chance to get vaccinated. There is no reason for mask mandates, part-time schools, or any lockdown measures. Children are falling behind in school and are being harmed physically and psychologically by the tactics that you have used to keep them from the classroom during the last year. We won't allow it again.
Powerful stuff. That's a viral video which has divided America. Which way do you think this is going to go, Kinsey? The libertarian, freedom-loving red states, or do you think actually the rather more cautious, lockdown-friendly, mask-wearing Democrats will prevail when it comes to the policies going forward?
Well, I will tell you that Senator Rand Paul, with that video, captured the mood of most Americans who've seen the CDC fail them time and time again with their guidance only to try to bring back the same failed policy. And I know that there is reaction on both sides, but if you look at just a tweet alone, that's over 30,000 retweets and nearly 80,000 likes. So obviously the senator has struck a chord with Americans. He's been What I would say is Rand Paul, throughout the pandemic, has been very consistent with his messaging. Not only that, as he stated in the video, he has the background to back up what he says. So I do think it's time that all Americans maybe sit back and take Senator Rand Paul seriously.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly a tension, particularly between Republican senators and governors and the White House, because we know that Joe Biden and his team are still very pro-mask and pro-lockdown, and the mask has become totemic, hasn't it? It's kind of transcended being a public health measure, and it's become political.
It absolutely has become political. And what's so interesting about the states and how certain states are being criticized for their mask policies. I have to tell you, half the people that are criticizing Florida or Texas for their mask policies, I'm seeing on Facebook that they're headed to Florida and Texas on vacation. So while they criticize these states and these governors for their policies, they certainly are enjoying a little vacation over in their states, enjoying their mask policies and their freedoms.
Kinsey, tell me about Nick Cannon.
Oh no, are we really going to talk about this? This was so funny. So I worked with Nick Cannon on a show on the E! Channel years ago. He was a very nice young man. Oh, my dogs are saying hello.
You're being heckled by your dogs.
Young man then. What, pardon?
You're being heckled by your dogs there.
I am. They didn't know we were going in the Nick Cannon direction either.
How many dogs have you got?
I have 4 Maltese Yorkie mixes. I think in America we call that hoarding. I don't know what you guys call it over there.
Definitely. Release 3 of them. Why have you got so many dogs? Do you just love them?
I love them. They're like human teddy bears. Don't you love dogs?
Well, I do, but one's plenty, a bit like a wife.
Well, I wouldn't want more than one husband, I can assure you that. But yeah, Nick Cannon has, I think in the last few months, he's had like 4 children, and he has 7 total. He was a child star on Nickelodeon who grew up to be, one of our big wig hosts. I'd almost compare him to a Ryan Seacrest or a Mario Lopez, if you recognize those names.
Yep.
He hosts a show called The Masked Singer here in America.
Big show.
And he says that it's the woman's decision whether or not you have a child or not. It has nothing to do with him. And so now he's got 7 children running the planet. And you can just tell, I feel horrible for these children because none of them are going to see him consistently. And you know that they're just going to own TMZ one day, where all we're going to hear about is the Cannon kids.
Yes, I will have to tell you that our Prime Minister apparently has around 7 children. So, in Hollywood, it's an actor and TV host. In this country, it's the Prime Minister. Is he something of a criticised figure in the States now? I mean, is he a figure of public enmity?
It is a joke, but what concerns me is Hollywood's lack of morals and values. What concerns me is that he's not more criticized for this behavior, that the norm is not getting married, staying with that person and having children, that the norm is planting your seed all over the West Coast and, I'll send you guys a check in the mail. I think that is what is so interesting to me about the direction that Hollywood has taken, where as Americans, we use, and honestly, I think why I admire your country. Your country seems to really, when it comes to morals and values, it's still such an important thing to you. Whereas in America, it's almost, we're just throwing it out the window. It's woke to have no morals and values. It's woke to turn your back to what used to be considered so special in those relationships in the Bible, that people are turning their back on that here, especially in Hollywood.
Do you think this woke wave is going to wash itself across the country, or will there just be pockets of extreme political correctness in America?
It has washed itself across the country. You are seeing it washing itself across the country, yeah, and it's pretty concerning. And I don't know what I think. Yeah, I was watching one of your guests talking about Christianity in America. I believe it was this week. Yes, and it's absolutely right that less people are going to church, less people are considering themselves, of Christian faith. And I think that it is devastating to our country. And we are putting these actors, athletes, and musicians on these pedestals that we used to only put are biblical figures. So it's actually, something that I think is pretty devastating to our country and might be why I'm trying to escape to yours.
Well, we'd have you any time. I'll sign the visa myself, Kinsey. But, come and do a show here on GB News. The bottom line is that it's happening in schools as well, isn't it? And you've got gender ideology being taught in American high schools and beyond that, also younger children in elementary schools as well, being asked to decide whether they identify as a boy or a girl, something that's happening in Scotland at the moment. Final thought, do you think that a change at the White House could reverse this wave of wokeness? Do you think that if a Republican got the top job in a couple of years' time, 3 years' time, that actually it could be reversed?
I do, but I think it would depend on the Republican. I don't know if President Donald Trump is the person that could do something like that. Although I admire the man, I do think it's going to take somebody that really at their core, that's where their heart is.
Kinsey, brilliant to have you and your multitude of dogs on the show. I wish you well. Let's catch up really soon. A fantastic interview there, live from Hollywood in California. Kinsey Schofield, check out her website. Fantastic stuff, a royal expert as well.